math, and theater. Hello, welcome back to Math Time with Professor Prime. And I am your host as always, Professor Prime. And today we're going to be talking about math in theater. This was on my list for a while, but I feel extra encouraged to do this video because I just finished watching Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. So theater has been on the brain. So originally when I had this idea, it came from a conversation that I had with my mom. And she had some cool points that I'm going to work into here along with my own. So yeah, with that in mind, let's get into it. So, theater is complicated. There's a lot going on. When you see a play, there's so much that went into that production. And you know what? There's a lot of math into all of it. Let's talk about that. So, to start, when you're writing a play, there's a lot of math that goes into writing that play because you want it to be a certain length, right? Right, you have this story that you want to get across, and you might have restrictions on how long you have to tell that story, and maybe you don't, but either way you are going to be considering time in here in some way, shape, or form, and there's math in that. And you're also breaking up your play typically into acts and scenes, and there's math in how that gets broken down. Right? And I think there's something to be said about that. Because you have what you wrote, but how is that going to translate to stage? And there's a lot of mathing making that happen. And, typically you have a budget, so you have to consider things with that, right? There's a lot of math involved there. And you have to think about if you can bring your vision to life. And there's a lot of logistics that gets involved in theater. You're working with a lot of different people, and we'll talk about some of those different people and what they do. Let's start with the actors, though. Right, they're the people that you're going to be seeing on stage. They're in this play, and so they have to be up on stage for a certain amount of time. And there's a lot of math that goes into their emotions. There's a lot of math that goes into how they say a line, along with their timing. And there's a lot of math involved in them doing whatever it takes to be in that play for the amount of time that they're in it. And, if they're getting paid, there's a lot of money there. But even if they weren't getting paid, right, they're putting a lot of time into it. So there's a lot of math in what they get out of that and what they put in as well, no matter how you cut it. And if they're singing, there's a lot of math in that. Right? Because if they're singing, they could be just, doing that by themselves. They could be doing that with other actors and actresses. They could be doing that with music excited. And there's math in all that. There's math in how the songs are structured. There's math in how the instrumentation is done. There's math in how you're coordinating with the other people on stage. And with how long the musical number is and how that flows into whichever part you're doing next, right? So there's a lot of math that goes into place with that. And there's a lot of math in the motion. I think I may have mentioned that, but it's just like, there's a lot of parts moving around, right? And then what about lighting, right? There's a lot of math in that. There's a lot of math in the light itself, but there's also a lot of math in constructing the lights. There's a lot of math in their placement. You have to get things in the right angle. You have to have them cover the right amount of space. You have to have them be a certain amount of brightness. And things could be changing as you go along. So there's a lot of math and there's a lot of precision in lighting and just having theater in general, right? And then there's sound, right? Because there's the music part, which we talked about, but you might also be going and doing certain sound effects, and there's a lot of math in producing those sound effects and how they balance with whatever's going on with stage. There's also the volume of the actors. There's a lot of math in that. And if you have a play where you're interacting with people, like the audience, then your actors are going to have to coordinate themselves, and they're going to have to go out there and have that work into everything. And I think when you look at the big picture, when you look at a production, right, there's just so much math that goes into developing your vision, writing the story, everybody that's involved in it, right? There's math everywhere. And we can't forget that there's a lot going on with the crew, right? Like, because in addition to the lights, in addition to the sound, there's costumes, there's makeup, there's a lot. And there's math and all that. Like for costumes, for instance, there's a lot of math in the sizing. There's a lot of math in the person who is wearing it and having everything fit just right to kind of build on that, like the size of whatever garment you're wearing or whatever costume as a whole. Because you might have just clothes, but you might have other items and elements to it. And there's math in how all that goes, and whatever your costume is, right? There's a pattern to it. There's math in that, right? There's math in those patterns. And then you have whoever is working on the costumes, right? With them creating it, there comes a lot of math, and them getting actors and actresses set up with that. There's also a lot of math in doing makeup, a lot of precision involved in that, a lot of layers to it. So I think it's just utterly fascinating. And again, there are a lot of other roles in theater. And then if you're an audience member, right? Like you're paying to see a show, or if you get lucky, maybe there's a free show. But no matter what, you are investing something. Because like if you are paying to get into a show, you're investing time and money. But even if you're not paying, you're still investing time. And so you hope that things work out well. And there's like money in you being selective about picking a show and spending the time to watch that show and whatever you may have paid. And I think that's interesting. And if you get involved, like if there's a play where you get involved, there's math in your emotions and the emotions of the cast, and how you all interact, how you speak, how they breathe, how you interact with whatever they're doing. There's math in all of it. And I'm trying to think if I had anything else to say about it, because there's so much that you could say. And I also don't want to repeat too much, but I do think one of the things that I want to say on the way out is you could also have a novelization of a play, and having that happen. There's some math in making that happen, but I think that's somewhat of a smooth process, or ideally. But then there's the idea of you turning a play into a film, right? Or a TV show, right? There's a lot of math that goes into the logistics of making that work and the money involved to make it happen. But then, because the format changes a bit, there's math in the energy, right? Because if you're in a play, you can, thrive on that audience if everything's going smoothly. Whereas you don't necessarily have that when you're doing something on film. And so it's a different layer, and things that might translate to things that go into theater well might not translate to film well. And so you have to adapt. You have to cut this or cut that, or add this or add that, and there's math in all of it. So there's a lot of math in theater. There's a lot to say about it. And if anyone has anything to add to the conversation, please do. I welcome it. That's one of the reasons why I do these sort of videos. I do it so I can provide context and start a conversation, and to hear from other people, and what they might have to add to it, and what they may have been thinking about all of it. And I guess one more thing that I will say on the way out is, because of theater and how quick it moves and how everything flows, I can't help but think about the math in that flow and in the rhythm of things. It's all amazing. But yeah, so math and theater, they go more together than you think. I'll see you in the next one.
Professor Prime out.